Today, we're going to talk about the good girl syndrome. If the good girl is part of your identity, you are going to recognize yourself in the 6 signs I'll share with you in this video. And if you're interested in this type of content, click on subscribe. As a side note, introverts and highly sensitive people, which is my niche, tend to show signs of the good girl syndrome. And I am myself an INFJ and an HSP. So let's dive in. First, you often feel more like a child than an adult. No matter how old you are, it's hard for you to really step into your adult self. And there are some situations like dealing with authority figures or with people that you put on a pedestal that make it even harder. When you are the child, you're afraid of being told off, of making a mistake. And this is a fear that I had for a long time, and a lot of the women that I support also have this fear at first of being blamed, of having done something wrong, having made a mistake. For your subconscious mind and for your nervous system, being blamed, being told off is like a threat to your survival. And this is coming from the wounded inner child that is inside of you. When you have a healthy, solid adult foundation, you should not be paralyzed by this fear. And you'll see that feeling like a child, feeling like a little girl, is the core of the good girl syndrome, and that all of the signs that I'm going to share with you here derive from this. Secondly, you see yourself as inferior to other people. If you're watching this and you're an adult, chances are that you're evolving in a world full of adults, most of them looking confident, looking like they know what they're doing, and you tend to put them on a pedestal. Because you believe you're not as intelligent as others, not as skilled, not as qualified, not as interesting, not as knowledgeable, not as good, you think other people are better than you. Let's say that you're at a meeting with people that you admire. Because of the good girl syndrome, you also are intimidated by them. Admiration and intimidation go hand in hand for you because you feel inferior. In this meeting, it could be your time to shine, to show your potential, but instead, you stay quiet. You try to not make any waves, you don't show your personality, you don't share your opinions, you actually even don't show that you exist because you don't feel you belong there as you're inferior to those people. In your mind, you have no value to bring. So there's a strong inferiority complex in the good girl syndrome. And let's be clear, you're not doing any of this on purpose. It's a go-to behavior that has been learned over time and that then became automatic. When your inner foundations are a bit shaky, they're not solid, then self-doubt always comes in. And it contributes to a submissive posture, a little girl posture, which hinders you in life. If you feel you lack confidence, if you tend to shrink yourself and have difficulties with communicating in your personal or in your professional area, I will tell you more about how we can work on this in my one-on-one signature program called Heal and Expand later on in this video, and I have a discount for you. Number 3, fear of conflicts. A child does not like conflicts because they feel threatening, right? Well, it's the same when you have the good girl syndrome. You try to please, to be extra kind, to keep the peace, but it's not necessarily honest and authentic to you. It is more of a people-pleasing behavior, of a surviving behavior. So you prefer maybe not sharing your opinion and just agreeing with what everyone else is saying, or just simply not saying anything. You are focused on keeping the peace. And even when you know you're right, you may find it hard to affirm yourself, so you keep it to yourself. Maybe you even smile too much. Smiling is beautiful, but sometimes we over-smile to create peace, and that is not authentic. It comes from people-pleasing tendencies. 4th sign, saying no is difficult. You want to please, you want to be kind, and you probably learned growing up that you had to please other people in order to receive love and affection. So you had to earn love. Disappointing someone by saying no is like a threat to you being liked, appreciated, and loved. So it feels very, very unsafe for you. By guiding my clients through this process and myself, I can tell you that setting boundaries when you have the good girl syndrome is key, but it's also very uncomfortable. However, the more you do it, the more your nervous system gets used to it and the easier it gets. And I honestly got so much better at saying no, like there's no comparison there. 5, you easily feel guilty. Saying no, setting boundaries, sharing some opinions that may ruffle some feathers feels very scary to you because you're afraid of being seen as selfish, as a bad person. It does not go with your good girl role, so you're going to unconsciously reject the behaviors that don't match this role that you've been embodying for so long, the good girl. So you tend to feel guilty very easily, even over small things, and this guilt can really eat at you and haunt you, especially if you're highly sensitive. So this is really typical of the good girl syndrome. Our sixth sign is physical symptoms. Because you don't feel confident, you find it hard to position yourself as your cool, calm, collected, and valuable self in your interactions. This tends to create physical symptoms like excessive sweating, redness in the face and chest, dry mouth, trembling, fast heartbeat, your voice shaking, or even experiencing mind blanks, which is very typical. Your mind affects your body. They are connected. And these physical symptoms come from a lack of confidence, but they can also come from deep past traumas. Let me know in the comments which of those signs resonates the most with you. I'd love to know. I honestly went through all of this in my life, and so did most of the women and the few men that I supported. Our goal here is to work on the inner foundations, to make them solid, to make them healthy and stable so that you can safely embody your adult self. For this, we need to do deep work at the root level. We need to progressively rewire the subconscious mind to liberate yourself from those signs and symptoms that I've shared in this video, and even more than this, right? Because you live most of your life through this good girl syndrome. Here is where I often see people get stuck. They try to change their behavior without dealing with these inner foundations. For example, trying to speak up, trying to set a boundary, to say no. Those are great things to practice. However, you may not feel any change in the way that you feel, in the way that you actually position yourself, because you've not been addressing your inner foundations. They are still shaky. So we can't ignore the foundations. We need to rebuild them step by step. In my 3 months one-on-one program called Heal and Expand, I support you all the way from feeling like a little girl, from feeling like a wallflower, to building your confidence, affirming yourself, and having the impact you're here for. There are 3 months left in 2025, and you can experience those 3 months being fully supported so that you can start 2026 embodying this upgraded new version of yourself. My framework is transformational because I have done the work on myself and I have invested in myself. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm offering £250 off, right? That's GBP, £250 off the 3 months package for the next 5 bookings. If this speaks to you, it may be your cue to get personal support for the next 3 months of the year so that you can build those solid, healthy, stable adult foundations. If you're curious about this, type ready in the comments and check the pinned comment for all the details. I look forward to chatting with you. I'd be honored to support you. Sending you much love. Bye.